There are three certainties in life: death, taxes, and apparently Michael Cheek scoring. He did so again for Bromley on Saturday, but it wasn't enough as United held out for a 2-1 win and all 3 points, bouncing back instantly from last Saturday's disaster in Shropshire. Welcome to the review show. Pleasure to be with you as you start the new week, and as always, a pleasure to be reviewing a win with my favourite UTAS panel. First up, Jack Swindlehurst. How are you this Sunday evening?
Wow, we are moving on leaps and bounds. The generosity in your introduction,
I know.
are incredible.
Well, my favourite thing is actually a Tom Walker who had a few beers on a Saturday and then ran a very hilly 10k on the Sunday morning. And the look in his eyes when he joined this Zoom call was a man who has been through some wars and seen some things. How are you, mate?
Yeah, absolutely defeated, to be honest. And the funny thing is, like, the real winner in it all, because I feel like I come off pretty well, really, because I had as you say, drink had been taken on the Saturday. Arguably not the best preparation for a 10k, which was miles away from my house. I thought, I've done pretty well there. I feel like I've won the day, I've won the morning, which is obviously a good aim for everybody. But really, the real winner, of course, is Matt Caspel.
Yeah, once again, without doing anything.
Because the timing was not one that is going to worry him too much, I would say, in our bet about the Cambridge half, the rapidly approaching Cambridge half. March feels like it could be tomorrow, to be honest, at this point. But yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm fucking knackered, mate. I'm really tired. I would say excitement peaked probably about 1:15 on Saturday. And ever since then, it's just been a bit of a slog, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, fair play to you for getting through it, mate. Swindle, you've done the Cambridge half last year, the sweltering Cambridge half, I think it was that year, wasn't it? Would you say that Tom's preparation yesterday is something you'd recommend for Saturday, the 9th of March or whatever it is, the day before the Cambridge half?
Yeah, 100%. It really takes the edge off. It'll just leave you feeling a bit kind of freer.
There's something about the 11th pint, isn't there, that really preps you? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I think it was the 11th. That was the one. That was one I could have done without.
Yeah. That's the one that really tipped you over the edge. 10 would have been absolutely fine.
Yeah, pints 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 were just fine. Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know what? Like, the thing was, like, we were in the Kingston Arms, which is actually obviously sacrilege given our sponsor, of course.
Of course.
But we were in there, call a spade a spade, I hold my hands up. I'm not perfect. Who is? And like, some of the beer they sell in there, man, like, it's not even like, you'll go and just have like a lager. It's like Belgian, like 9% fruit beer.
But you love that stuff. That's the thing. You can't keep your
hands.
Yeah,
I really liked it. Really liked it. Yeah.
Do you know what today is? I looked up what today's like World Day is.
Oh.
It's International Gin and Tonic Day. So I think that feels quite appropriate, doesn't it? You can get, it's worth saying, if you want a gin and tonic in Cambridge, I would say the best place to go is the Old Spring, because crucially you can take advantage of their 10% off deal in the week with a United ticket. Our wonderful sponsors, obviously. I'm sure I hope a few people went and stuck around in town and made the most of the happy hour between 6 and 7 yesterday. That would have been quite the day. Tom, it feels like that would have been the sort of thing that would have been right up your street yesterday.
That would have been the baseball bat to the side of the head that I didn't quite need. I think after an afternoon celebrate to go, oi, do you fancy 2 for 1s? Not 2 for 1, is it? Crucially, I shouldn't.
No, yeah, don't. Yeah, let's not spread misinformation here.
Yeah, that'd be good though. Maybe next year.
Maybe that's next. It's 10% off anytime, as I say. It's Saturday, half price beers between 6 and 7, and it's a Matchday Meal Deal.
That is 2 for 1. That is 2 for 1.
Yeah, fair enough. It's just fair enough. It's not packaged like that. Do you know what, Tom? Fair play. You've made me look a mug midway through the plug. Do you know what? Fair play. Should we get on to the game itself? Another 3 points at home, boys. Now the best home record in the whole division. Let's start with you, Swindle. What were your general thoughts on the afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, football cliches coming thick and fast here, but it was a game of two halves. I think we managed it really well in the first half, and we dominated them for long periods. And then second half was a different game, but you kind of look back on it, and a win's a win. Really, we've struggled to put together a consistent 90 minutes of football this season, and we'll get onto that, I'm sure. But I think it was a good performance in the first half. Loads of good individual performances as well, so there's plenty to be positive about. And yeah, we managed it well, even with all the disruption and everything else that went on. I think we got through it, and yeah, it dragged on. It was weird that it was an early kickoff and still seemed to just last forever. But yeah, it was quite nice to get it done and get that one ticked off the list because we spoke before and we all had the predictions that it would be a kind of close game. And I think we all went for the 2-1 win in the end. And that's how it transpired. So
That's never happened before, by the way. All three, I mean, we predicted the same thing, all three of us, but 2-1 win. I actually stuck a few quid on it and enjoyed a nice 20 quid or whatever it was.
nice. Yeah. And also Michael Cheek scoring was another thing that,
I know.
was
It's
brought up. And
so obvious, isn't it?
yeah.
He is ridiculous, by the way. Like, what his goal record is insane. Why is he still playing for Bromley?
Well, we were having this conversation yesterday, and I feel like he knows his level. He enjoys playing there, and yeah, he's kind of carved himself a niche at this level of football. And it's just, he's playing for that team and will consistently do so, and feels no reason why he needs to go somewhere else. So yeah, fair play to him. He just loves banging them in, and yeah, took his goal well enough on Saturday, and yeah, a dangerous person. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a banana skin quite because they were above us at the start of the day, but really important that we carried on our good home form given how difficult we found it away from home.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to talk a bit generally at the end of the pod about our consistency and sort of home and away form in a bit of detail after the game. But on the game, Tom, Swindle mentioned it there. I think Bromley are a pretty decent opposition, to be honest, especially considering a lot of what we've seen this season. But they were a different team second half to they were first half. Are you seeing it? I mean, is there any part of you that is a bit frustrated that first half we were miles better than them, that it probably could and should have been more? It's the first time Harris has said we should have been 4 or 5-0 up at half time, and a bit of me kind of agreed with him.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I think actually, to be honest, I think it's a bit too simplistic to just package it up as first half good, second half shit. Do you know what? I just think Harris summed it up pretty well in his post match. I think it's one of those times where you probably do have to give a bit of credit to the opposition, really. Because like, look, we were miles better than in the first half, and quite impressively, really. Because Bromley are pretty canny operators at this level. Really, I think they finished 11th last year. They went into this game slightly ahead of us, but ahead of us still. And
they'd only lost 2 games all season. I think it's just worth saying that's the third game they lost all season. Like that, it's a very decent record.
Yeah, like a team that have caused teams at this level problems pretty consistently, really, for the last year and a bit. And yeah, like I said, like we were clearly better than them at half in the first half. You go into the second half pretty deservedly, really, 2 goals up. And you know what? They make loads of changes at half time. I think they make 4 subs. Presumably got a bit of a grilling at half time as well. And do you know what? They came out there a much better team, and they posed us problems. And do you know what? It did take us 15 or 20 minutes really to get to grips with it. And then I think that's where you give credit to our own manager, who made some subs of our own, changed our shape, and that's when we got to grips with it. And all right, it feels a bit nervy at 2-1, but I think even at 2-1, there weren't too many moments I can think of where you were really concerned that something was coming. I think it was that momentum in that sort of literally the first bit of the first half, the first bit of the second half. Where you're thinking, all right, there's an opportunity for them here really to kind of make it count, make their dominance count. And yeah, I think weirdly the disruptions probably played to our advantage a little bit. I think naturally when you look at it and you see that there's a team that are 1 goal up and it feels like you're clinging on and you're trying to close out the game and there's 15 minutes of added time, you'd be like, cool, that's a bit of a that's far from an ideal situation. But actually, I think the way that the game sort of broke up and stopped and started a little bit, I think it probably helped us a little bit if we're being honest. But yeah, I think a job very professionally done in the end. Really, I think Swindle's right to say there were a lot of individual performances, which I'm sure we'll touch upon. I think it's right. I think we saw big performances from players who needed them in some instances as well. And yeah, I think it's one of those games where, all right, like in reality, the last 45 minutes of it, or last hour of it, I guess, wasn't anywhere near as pretty or as pleasing on the eyes the first half of the game. But you know what? Like, you win a game, goals from both your centre forwards. You look pretty, reasonably comfortable towards the end of the game doing it. And all right, it might not have been the as aesthetically pleasing as you might like, sort of in the latter periods of the game. But it is what it is. It's another home win. We've got the best home record in the division. We're obviously starting to make that count. Clearly, the away form is the elephant in the room. But for now, we can look at the home form. We can look at the fact that it's a win against a decent side at this level, who, maybe top half, maybe have an eye on ambitions are slightly higher than that themselves. And just like a really good afternoon's work. And I think sometimes it's all right just to look at a game and just take it on face value and just look at the positives of it, really. And look, I think it was two teams maybe that are probably really, if you look at all the evidence, are not going to be teams that are going to trouble the top three too much this season. I guess we may more fancy to do that, but probably as it is, teams that might trouble the top seven if you can win those games, and that's probably a big step towards where you want to be, I guess.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that. And actually, I think it's very easy to sit here or like watch that game as a Cambridge fan or whoever you support and just think about it in the context of your own team and just think, like you say, first half good, second half bad. It's just not as simple as that because there's another team to think about. And I think the team we saw in the second half was much more the level that Bromley have played at throughout this season. And what we were seeing was just kind of getting to grips with that a little bit. And I think it did take us 5 or 10 minutes in the second half to get to grips with it. And like you say, Harris made some changes to match up the formation to the 3-5-2 that Castle's been banging on about for a long old time. And eventually, eventually it was probably a bit more comfortable than the, like you say, 2-1 with 15 on the board added on says. Let's talk about the strikers. I think this is a good place to start in terms of performances. Lavery and Kouassi, both on the score sheet. Harris, first thing he said in the post-match, and rightly so, both my strikers scoring. I mean, Lavery's is a fortunate one, isn't it? But they're starting to form a bit of a partnership up there, aren't they, Swindle? I mean, Kouassi's goal is excellently taken. That's what I haven't seen a United striker. It feels like I haven't seen a United striker do something like that in a long old time.
Yeah, 100%. I think I was just really impressed with Kouassi's performance on Saturday, kind of all over the place. He just makes such a nuisance of himself. He's becoming a real handful and kind of dragging defenders away from where they need to be, opening space up for Lavery. I think they complement each other very well. And I think, Kouassi just puts in a real shift. And as you say, the really well taken goal, back to goal, turning onto that right foot and absolutely rocking it into the top corner. No chance for the keeper. I think it's just nice to see that, a striker playing with some confidence and the ability to kind of do that. And League Two is a different kettle of fish to what we've been experiencing the last few years in League One. But to have someone, like that, who can operate at that level is really encouraging. And to see Lavery come back and I know you're going to touch on this, but Lavery playing, getting those minutes under his belt and playing a full game is an incredible thing after, a long injury layoff. And I think Kouassi just works very well with him. I think there's going to be times where Lavery will be the focal point more in games, but I think when it comes to Kouassi and he needs to be relied on to kind of just make people's lives difficult, really. You mentioned in the preview pod about absolute giant at centre back, and they were probably one of the more physical teams I think will play. I think they're pretty good at kind of bossing games like that. And we've mentioned they've only lost twice this season before that, and you can kind of see why. So I think Kouassi dealt very well with that, and Lavery just played very well generally, and right place, right time, stealing that first goal. But he put in a real shift, and all the way down into the end, bringing the ball in the corner. Like both of them seem really up for it and playing together, having two focal points rather than one that we've probably dealt with for a number of seasons is really encouraging to see.
It feels like with Kouassi playing under Harris, who was a striker and a proper number 9 in that sort of, I don't know, hustle and bustle type of mould, which you can see in Kouassi's game. You get the sense that game by game, his confidence and like maybe his nous, the little things he's kind of learning and picking up, and it does feel like he's getting better and better, doesn't it? With Lavery, do you think Lavery had 2 brilliant chances in the first half? I mean, obviously the one he scores, he doesn't really know anything about, but then he has 2. I'd probably say brilliantly saved, but he's in brilliant areas, and you could just tell. I thought Saturday was maybe the first time since Lavery's been back where there was a couple of touches that you think, God, that guy is much better than this level. You know what I mean?
There was one in particular in the second half where the ball came over the top and he like killed it on a
I know exactly the one you're talking about.
Incredible to see. And at this level, it's kind of, we certainly don't feel guilty, but you have to feel very lucky to have a player of that ability level playing at this level. And if he can kind of get back into the swing of it and get that momentum going and stay injury free, he could be such an important kind of aspect of our success this season. And it's nice to see a player like that who's had injury layoffs come back and play with confidence and is allowed to play with freedom because of the role that Kouassi plays as well. I think they kind of complement each other really well. And enable each other to play, how they want to be playing, and it was very, very effective in the first half on Saturday, and yeah, I think they were good saves. I think Lavery in another couple of weeks will probably be putting at least
Yeah.
one of those chances away, but I don't think you really want to be digging players out. The keeper was there and saved them, and it'll come with time.
It's probably one of them, innit? You'd rather see a striker in that position getting those chances than not. If you know what I mean. Obviously, you've got
Yeah.
to tuck them away at some stage, but it's definitely a positive to take there. Tom, second half, slightly different story. We go in 2-0, 2-0 up. They make 4 changes at half time, come out a different side, as we mentioned at the start of the pod. How are you seeing our performance in the second half more broadly? Do you see it as us not like coping with them or them just raising their level?
Both, to be honest. I think like Bromley were probably never going to be as bad in the second half as they were in the first half, and they're always going to make more of a game of it because that's, I guess, the sort of team that they are and sort of have been really. But I definitely think there's an element of us not coping with them, and like that sounds really critical, but I don't really mean it to sound that critical because I do genuinely think that they're a really well managed team, and they made some substitutions which impacted the game. Fair credit to them. Like they managed to make a game out of one where there was basically no contest. At half time, and it took us a while to get to grips with those subs, and arguably, can Harris do something a little bit earlier to try and change it, but. I guess managers don't want to be like mega reactive. They want to kind of see how games play out and obviously see what's going to happen. But I think it was just a case of an opposition team putting a bit on us, and game state probably informs part of that because you're 2-0 up. Like obviously, you kind of earn the right really to to have a second half like that. I suppose with the quality of our first half performance, and you look at it the other way, and you think like if that was us, like how would we feel? Like what would you want to see from us? And you know the absolute opposite of it was what happened at Shrewsbury, right?
Exactly.
And we're 2-0 down at half time there, and we can barely impact a game. But really, that's our job, isn't it? As the team that's chasing the game, as the team that needs to get back into it, you need to make changes. You need to impact it. You need to be better. You need to be more competitive. You need to win more duels, win more challenges, win anything that you can. And fair credit to Bromley, they did that, and they've got players in that team that can and have hurt a lot of teams at this level. Like Cheek's the obvious one because he wins the Golden Boot last season, Player of the Year, and all that sort of stuff, and obviously scored the actual goal against us. But there's others in there like Pinnock. I think Kabamba's a really decent player at this level. I think he's also chipped in with a number of goals. I think he's scored at least twice as many as any of our players have this season. So sometimes it happens, and there's a little bit of us probably earning the right a little bit to have a second half where you can just sit in and you can make it a bit ugly, and you rely on the fact that you've got enough grit and determination to kind of get through a half. But yeah, I guess if you're being mega critical, you'd probably look at it and go, well, actually, from the position that we're in, should we go on and make that game not just a home win, but one that you can look back on and go, we've actually absolutely we've absolutely drilled them basically. But I think probably, in my opinion, I'd say you've got to pay a bit more respect to the opposition than that, because they're a decent side. And I basically don't like. I guess what I'm quite consciously trying to do is not turn a positive thing like a home win, and I think having really good home form is obviously the absolute. It's essential to any ambitions we're going to have on finishing in the upper parts of the table. Quite consciously trying to not turn that into a negative, but the second half was a bit poor. Or is an interesting choice of word there, because I think that indicates we were playing badly, but I think it just got put on us a little bit. And we did make not necessarily positive change, but we made changes which did have an impact in that second half, and we kind of regained control of it, I think, a little bit, which was quite pleasing actually, because I don't think Bromley are going to be among the very, very best teams in this league, but they're certainly not going to be among the very, very worst. And just to be able to, in the Crawley game, for example, we were able to just take the game away from Crawley with a little bit of quality. And almost the flip side of that is, can you make changes which just regain a bit of control and wrestle a bit of control of the game back? And we actually were able to do that. And I think control was probably the word that we used so often throughout last season in a really negative sense, because I can't really think of any fixture last season that we had actual control of.
Mm.
So to be able to make a few changes and be able to bring on a player and change the shape a little bit and actually do that, I think was quite pleasing, really. So different positives, obviously, and what we want to see is more of the positives that we saw in the first half, but certainly doesn't mean the work that was done in the second half was irrelevant. Certainly doesn't mean it was poor. It just didn't feel as entertaining, I guess. It's probably my take.
I think a lot of that control probably comes from naturally the middle of the park. I've got to give you this one again, Tom, just because it's about your favourite player. Ben's asked, Harris said in his pre-match presser that he knows his best combinations in midfield. He actually said in his post-match that he thought Pelly had his best game for us. But Ben's asked, do you think the best combination is Ball and Pelly? He says, I think they played well together, picking up loose passes and mopping up well. Ball passing forward a lot and Pelly actually driving forward and beating players. Maybe a couple of weeks ago I wouldn't have agreed with Ben, but I do think as a combination, there was a lot of yesterday they showed how they can work together as a partnership. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think they probably both had, well, Ball certainly, but I think Pelly probably, maybe not his best game for us, but certainly one of them. They basically both picked an afternoon to play well, I guess. Yeah, I think that's been the area of the pitch we've looked at, and we've said pretty consistently, like, if we can find a way and we can find a formula that works a little bit, or I guess in the case of someone like Pelly, who probably hasn't really hit the levels that you'd want him to, if we're being honest about it, probably just a bit of an increase in performance level. Then that's the area of the pitch which catapults us from being a team that would be in and around the sort of bottom part of the playoffs to a team that can seriously have designs on finishing like towards the top end of the league, like top three, potentially further. Because like realistically, like, on paper, like in terms of like a CV or a set of CVs, I don't think there's a team in this division that can compete with the set of midfield options that we've got. Like in theory, it should be a bit of a joke, really, the level of quality that's in that midfield, and we haven't seen it really consistently enough. I think the combinations is a really interesting one, because I think if you ask most Cambridge fans about who would their preferred midfield choice be, you're very, very rarely going to get a consistent answer. It's always going to be one of him and one of him and one of him sort of thing, and probably even between the three of us, I wouldn't mind betting that if we were to sit here and go, who would you want as your midfield pairing, we'd probably come up with three different answers. And that kind of says it how it is. Like, it is a difficult bit of the pitch to sort out. I suppose we've been forced into having a bit of consistency there because of what's happened with McLaughlin, which is obviously not ideal, but it is what it is. But yeah, I suppose in terms of like, is that combination the best one? I'd certainly think so. Like on paper, like it's the one at the start of the season where you go, if you've got Don Ball and Pelly Ruddock in your midfield in League Two, realistically, that's a hell of a midfield that it should be. I guess the question was mainly about Pelly Ruddock, but actually I'd probably flip it to Don Ball a little bit, because I think he's been the one who, all right, Pelly might not have hit the levels yet, but I think Ball's been the one who's actually made mistakes that have contributed to us conceding goals and potentially losing games or ending up in situations that we don't want to be in. He's the one that I think had a really standout performance for me that we've kind of needed to see. From Pelly, we've seen it in stops and starts and probably not enough consistently, but I think Don Ball, we've not really seen it from at all, to be honest. Thought it was excellent, particularly first half. Contributed a lot going forward as well, which was good. A couple of chances created, which obviously was pleasing to see. But yeah, it didn't feel like it. Like with the front two, you'd probably look at it and you'd go, "We've found our formula there." It's kind of clicked a bit. Like, what the front two should be. We're not quite there at a centre mid yet, but I think we're approaching it, which is pleasing. But yeah, one swallow doesn't make a summer and all that.
Yeah,
you need to see it a few more times before you kind of think that it's clicked and we've got it and we found the right match. But positive signs. I genuinely believe that that's the difference maker for us this season. That's what will move the dial like nothing else can. Is, can you find the right combination in central midfield which can actually turn you into serious, well, certainly automatic promotion contenders, but potentially title contenders. I think on paper our options are that good that it could have that much difference.
And we'll have to see it away from home more than anything, won't we? Because that's really where we're falling down at the moment. There's some other standout performances, Swindle, I think we should touch on. For me, Adam Mayer was, I just think he's excellent. I think the standard he's set since coming in has been brilliant. Even I didn't watch the Shrewsbury game, so maybe I would say this, but I haven't yet seen him put in anything a particularly bad performance. I'm assuming he did at Shrewsbury because it sounds like it sounds like everyone did. I wanted to also shout out Purrington. I thought on his return actually looked pretty solid and offered quite a lot going forward, much more than I think we've seen. Supported Mayer on that side quite well, I thought.
Yeah, I think it's the first time we've really seen him offer that kind of going forward, and it was really refreshing to see. I think they've clearly done some work with him, in the downtime, and he's taken some time out of the team and come back in, and it was really refreshing to see, because I think I'm probably being one of his bigger critics. Certainly, on the pod, I think we all were aware that he wasn't playing to the level he needed to, but it was brilliant to see, and as you say, it was a real outlet and working well with Mayer, because I think there was a lot of people kind of hoping Bradshaw would come in and solidify that place as his own, and maybe that hasn't quite worked out. But I think, Purrington coming in and also having a bit of, that backbone to probably realise, his level wasn't where it needed to be at the start, and he's come back in and playing like that was really refreshing to see. So I think it's a really good sign, and the competition for places in a team like Tom was saying there, that's going to be challenging, hopefully for playoffs and maybe even beyond. You need that competition for places, and you need that strength in depth, and it's starting to look like for this level of football that we're starting to have that, and things coming together. I think Mayer's going to be a fantastic acquisition, and we need to get everything out of him that we can, and the fact that he's come in and hit the ground running is fantastic for us. But players like Purrington are going to be equally important, and slightly less of a glamorous role per se, but I think defensively was tight, and then just offering stuff going forward just gives us another outlet up there, which is kind of crucial.
And he's adding that to like his experience, which is obviously like a really big part of it. Any other standout performances that you wanted to point out at all in yesterday's?
There wasn't anyone that I kind of thought didn't play particularly well. I think the points that you made about Impanzo and Don Ball are really good, and I think Kouassi was my standout performer. I think Kel Watts had an interesting game.
That moment in the first half, gifting them like the only chance they had in the first half. It felt like he'd sort of played himself out of mistakes like that a little bit this season.
It's one of those though, isn't it? I really don't want to be digging players out just for a bit of content. I think he's had such a fantastic start to the season, and there's a running joke about him giving away a mistake, and I thought yesterday was when it was going to happen, when he's trying to thigh it back, and there was a couple of times where Eastwood came out and I was really worried at that point. But Kel Watts has come in and done a really good job this season, and we'll give him a couple of half mistakes like yesterday, but like Saturday. But I think generally, great performance from everyone in that starting 11, and the ones that came on, made a difference too.
Honestly, the only one I would point out and I don't want to be critical at all, I just thought Kai didn't quite look at it to the level that he's set. I just thought just a bit rusty, but nothing more than that.
Kai did, I would say, 2 potentially of the worst attempts on goal I've ever seen. Like to hit one shot out for a throw is something, but I think he hit 2 out within about 5 minutes.
He got hooked not long after, did he?
Yeah, probably deserved it, I guess. On Kel Watts though, that's 2 thigh passes yesterday.
I know, both in the first half, right? I think.
Yeah, great to see. I mean, I do agree with Swindle. I've been pretty consistent on this. I'm very, very convinced that one of those will lead directly to an own goal at some point this season. And it'll just look absolutely ridiculous if that does happen.
I still can't get over that. Like this random League 2 centre back has got this thing that like I've never seen done so consistently across football.
Funnily enough, one of the guys I was stood with actually during the game, so he said, like, do you think he's the best in the world at that?
I've got not enough evidence of anyone else being good at it.
I mean, I did it at 5-a-side once a few weeks ago, but I don't think I can put a claim on that. Look, I mean, maybe we need to watch more football around the continent. Around the world than we do. Maybe we're too sort of tunnel visioned in on Cambridge United. But for me, Kel Watts could be the best thigh passer with the ball in the world, which is quite an incredible moniker, I guess, for a League 2 centre back.
Maybe there's like some Argentinian championship centre back who's like quality at them. And in Argentina, they always give this stuff like silly names, don't they? Like an Olympico is scoring directly from a corner. that sort of stuff. So maybe they've got a name for it. If you know, obviously write into abbeystanpod@gmail.com. Just before we wrap up, just to wrap up the game, lads, we've got to mention the ref injury, which
amazing.
have you ever had that, been in that scenario in a football stadium?
Not to that length of time, and I think it's always funny when a ref falls over. Sorry if you're a referee and you're listening. If a ref falls over and the crowd will go way, and then a player like picks up a card and cards them or something, that's always just a funny bit. And then the picture that's doing rounds today is Shane Lavery digging him out for time wasting while he was lying on the floor, clearly in a lot of pain, having torn his ACL. And then I think the best part of the whole day was the call out on the public address system for anybody in the crowd. The geezer who went and did it just in the classic blue jeans and brown brogues.
Who was? Do you know who he was?
No.
The BBC London reporter who is trained, and because I was watching it on TV, so I was listening to Doug and Jono, and they were obviously sat like in the next booth, and they came and grabbed him because that someone made the officiating team aware that he was a qualified referee. But hey, get this right, that's the third time this season that Bromley have had to ask for a trained official in the crowd. Something's going on there. That's a quarter of their games.
Is it always the BBC London reporter that goes?
Yeah, he must be. yeah. He's getting double rates every time. He loves it.
I thought it was brilliant. Sorry, I thought like the spectacle of seeing the whole thing unfold was brilliant. I didn't think that the guy, the actual ref.
Poor bloke, by the way, it's pretty brutal. Like, proper like twists his knee and the way forward.
The best thing, the funniest thing about it all was, and mate, it cracked me up in the pub afterwards because I was like, I think I just want to watch the highlights. Want to see the goals back. It's made the highlights.
No way.
on the Sky Sports app, the ref getting injured, and then there's like a slow-mo shot of him getting carried off with people either side of him, like arms around their shoulders, like helping him limp off the pitch. It's like it wasn't a dull game. Like it wasn't a dull game. And in like a sort of 2.5 minute highlights reel, there's probably about 30 seconds. So we're talking like 20% of that ish is dedicated to a ref getting injured. It was funny. I got to say the first ref was quite shit. I thought
the first ref, yeah.
The second one, the second one that came on was quite obviously absolutely terrified of giving any sort of decision. He was like, I don't want to be that ref that comes on like the sort of headline maker.
Yeah, he's just begging for nothing controversial in and around the box, isn't he? He's praying. There's nothing on the.
I absolutely love like the sort of like. Like the sort of football cliche things that comes out of something like that. Because I was like, what do you reckon? Like the ref said to him when he goes from being lino to being ref, he's like, just go out there and enjoy yourself. Or like when like players like run on the pitch, they do like a little like up to the sky, that sort of thing. Like imagine if he'd done that. I mean, it was just like such a brilliant like such good value in the guy that ended up being the fourth official, like the first time that he had to like make a sub.
Yeah. He didn't know to
indicate the numbers on the board. I was like, it's just brilliant. And I because I thought it was a Cambridge fan. I didn't realize you actually texted me mid game that it was the BBC London reporter. And I was like, imagine the first. I assumed it was a Cambridge fan. So I was like, imagine the first thing he does is come on and be like, right, minus 20 minutes coming on the board. That's in class.
Just puts in 2 minutes. That's it, lads. Nothing much has happened. Yeah, they talk about subs like making their mark on a game. Ref comes on, just like bang, red, first foul.
Yeah. Let them know you're there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey guys, just before we crack on, should we do a little plug for the FSA while we remember? Because this is going to be ongoing for the next couple of weeks. So if you're listening to this and you'll listen to the next few pods, you may as well just do this now, so then you can zone out when we do this for the rest of the pods.
Skip it. So you can skip this.
Don't skip it now. No. Right now, go on. It will be in the show notes. Go on the FSA Awards. Just Google it and vote for us in the long list for Club Podcast of the Year. You've only got to vote. I've got to make this clear. There's like 15 categories. You don't have to vote in each one. You only have to vote for Club Podcast of the Year. Type in Under the Abbey Stand. Give us a shot at finally doing some justice, having lost twice in a row.
Having been emphatically robbed on 2 occasions. I would say. Yeah.
You've corrected me a few times this pod, and that one is even more better than the other ones.
Joke. Sorry, no, but please do have us back.
Yeah. It's an excellent organisation.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so go and do that. It's in the show notes, and give us a bit of love there. Let's talk a bit generally, lads, just like looking ahead at the next couple of weeks. I mean, stating the obvious, our biggest problem is consistency. We haven't put together two results two of the same result of any sort in the league so far this season. We've got the best home record, as we've mentioned, but we're 20th in the away table. Only Cheltenham, Aki, Shrews and Crawley below us, which I'm pretty sure make up four of the bottom five of the whole league. So that gives you a bit of an indication as to where the problem is, really. Swindle, it's a tough question. We've got a tricky couple of away games coming up in the league, Notts County and Salford. What do you think is the answer to unlocking that consistency? Or is there one main thing that's maybe bugging you a little bit?
I think Tom made a good point earlier that, we have to respect the teams that we're coming up against and to put together 90 minutes of free flowing, consistent football is not as easy as just saying that. There are two teams on the pitch, and a lot of the teams in this league are going to be, at a certain level and make our lives difficult, especially on the away days. You look ahead to Notts County, similar position in the league, and there's going to be a lot of that kind of nip and tuck game. So I think it's just showing a bit more kind of backbone and a bit more bite when we've got the time. I think we've been guilty of not putting enough chances away when we've been on top, and I think that's got to be the thing that we do. We've come to regret it. I'll talk about this Harrogate game probably till the last game of the season. I think we'll look at that game where we just weren't cutthroat enough, and that's what we need to do when we're in periods of domination. We need to make it count, and I think we've started to do that. And managing games like Crawley and Bromley and just kind of being a bit more game aware. I think everyone's getting a bit sharper. The team have been together. We've spoken about people coming in late and not having pre-season and all of that, and I think we're past that point now. And I think there's some consistency building in the team and in the squad, and I think now we need to put that on onto the pitch. And it's no better day than the next game, and if they can go up to Notts County and get a positive result there and just try and get this momentum rolling through into November, and set up for Christmas. If we can be in those promotion places come New Year, then it's really going to be looking like a promising season for Cambridge United. But I think it's just about using the training that they're doing midweek and the kind of nous of Neil Harris and actually putting it into practice on the pitch and let your football do the talking.
Yeah, it's the Harrogate game is obviously something, you're right, we're going to talk about all season. Weirdly, just thinking about the away games, if you kind of take Shrewsbury as like a horrible blip, I think the one that kind of frustrates me a little bit more is actually Tranmere, because you see the level of performance we're putting in at home. Even like second half yesterday, which we've talked about, wasn't perfect. Like, Tranmere are not a good side. I know they went and beat Bristol Rovers 4-1 yesterday, but I think that says a bit more about Rovers than it does Tranmere. And I just think we could have, that was, as we said at the time, an approach thing. And it kind of annoys me looking back that, like, this league is weird and random, but that is an easier away game. And it felt like a real opportunity missed. And I still think about it. It still frustrates me a little bit in hindsight.
100%, and I agree with that. And I also think you need to look at Grimsby, because you look at Grimsby now and they're third in the table. That was a game for all intents and purposes that Cambridge United all but won. And what it is in situations like that, it's turning 1 point into three. It's not not just turning 0 into 1, but turning 1 into 3, because that's really where you propel yourself up the table. And I think it's using moments like that and learning from them and then putting it into practice the next time. We need to get some momentum, and that is very much involved with the away games too. We can't rely on our home record. We need to get that away win. We need to start pushing on there, and just that has to be part and parcel of the promotion side if we're considering ourselves that, and we absolutely should be. So no time like the present. So hopefully Notts County away can be a real kind of launching pad.
Yeah. The Grimsby game, I mean, you can even go as far back as the Swindon game, like gifting them 3 goals when you're 1-0 up. You can look at the Bristol Rovers game, like I just mentioned. They've just conceded 4 goals in back-to-back home games. So maybe actually what we were saying at the time was a bit wrong. I thought they were a better side than that, but maybe they're showing that they're not. Tom, Swindle's kind of hinting at it there. Do you think there's anything to do with the mentality of how they approach these away games specifically? Adam's asked us a question on this note, which is, does the team's performance have something to do with Harris's praise of the squad? So like singing their praises against Fulham and then do crap at Shrewsbury is the example he's given. But is it something like the way he must have given them a kick up the arse after Shrewsbury? He kind of needs that do you think there's a mentality in that they need a reaction to be fighting for rather than like setting a standard that's maybe where we're falling short in away games?
I would be very, very concerned if being praised for a good performance against Fulham was the reason behind sort of following away games not being up to scratch. I don't see that at all, to be honest. Um, I don't even know how much these players are listening to like post-match interviews, unless it's something like really specific. But that's probably another conversation. I think I think approach like is one thing. And we talked about it loads after Tranmere. Um, just this idea that we're maybe being too, or it feels like, it might not be a fair criticism, I don't know, but it feels like we're being almost too logical in the way that our results should go, in that like it's like you win your home games, you draw your away games, which is great if you are drawing some away games, but if you're not, then it puts a hell of a lot of pressure on winning literally all of your home games. And I think like Tranmere was just like the perfect example of that. It's like we went there to a team who we should be better than, and we are better than realistically, and we had virtually no intention of trying to win the football match until the last 20 minutes. And by that point, you're sort of running out of time. The next two away games are kind of different. It's the first time I think really that we've gone to a team that is really genuinely decent, or two teams that are genuinely decent. I suppose Swindon are sort of riding high, but it was second game of the season, that's still sort of forming out and stuff. So it's a bit of a different situation. But you go away to Notts, you go away to Salford. Like these are games where like you want to compete in, and realistically, there'll be a really good marker of where we're at. Because if we get brushed aside 2-3-0 in both these games, and you look at it and you're actually like, what's our place in the division? But if you can go to one or both and get a positive sort of result, then it kind of moves the needle really of what we can expect. But I'm not really sure it's a mentality thing. I think that if you pick apart each of the away games that we've had, particularly the ones where we have lost or sort of have had actually negative results, like Shrewsbury, for example, I think it was just a total lack of execution. Nothing to do with mentality, nothing to do with approach, just on the day, 11 players or 13, 14, 15, how many it was that took part, came on and probably put in the worst performance of the season, and collectively that results in you losing to a team that you probably should beat. At Tranmere, nowhere near fluid enough, that sort of stuff. Bristol Rovers, we probably should take something out of the game because CUFC missed an absolute sitter in that game. And there's loads of examples, but yeah, I'm not sure. Strictly speaking, it's like a proper mentality thing, to be honest. I don't think we've played. I don't think we've played enough away games yet to like to make kind of real trends out of it, and to be like it's this, it's that. Like there's any like clear pattern. But it like for sure, like we've played enough to say that results have to improve on the road. Because if they don't, like it basically just kind of castrates what you can expect to achieve this season, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll have to get better.
Nice graphic metaphor for Monday morning, people listening. You are right though that these next two aways are going to be the indications, I think, for the aways, because the other one I would mention there is that we just spoke about is Grimsby, and there's something to be said for Notts County and Salford as aways, where it might really suit the way Harris likes to approach games, and that's what we saw at Grimsby, really, like being able to play on the break, soak up pressure, and like kind of grind out narrow wins or do you know what I mean? It's kind of weirdly let them play the game on their terms. I think we're a worse team when kind of we have to dictate what happens and when we have to break teams down. So potentially if I'm being positive, there's something to be said for the expectation or the onus to go and perform and create being on the opposition, and Harris kind of liking that and our team being set up for that. I mean, I would guess, we'll talk about it on the preview show obviously, but I would actually assume that we might not play 4-4-2 in either of these games, and kind of see like maybe Kai behind Lavery or something like that, and then like Brophy and Mayer either side with the express intention to just break at pace. So yeah, look, we'll see. That's obviously no guarantee. And you're right, Tom, if you go and lose them both like 2-3-0, then it does really, I think that really does tell you loads about what to expect this season, not even from a performance perspective, but literally just the home and away form will tell you everything about where we're going to end up this season. Swindle, should we wrap it up? Let's just remind everyone that obviously you need to be a coconut tier member to be in the competition, which will get you The winner of the competition, you'll get 2 hospitality tickets to Grimsby at home on the 4th of January. The return of this away game that we've spoken about loads just now. Obviously, if you're part of the coconut tier, you also get at least 1 feature article a week, bonus pod content every month. We've got some bits coming out over the next few weeks. Sorry for being a bit slow on those. And there's going to be some merch coming out as well soon, so you'll get first dibs on that. And obviously, you can just buy us a beer and be nice to us because we are FSA nominated material and we want to be again. So head to the link in the description to go and do that. I think that's everything, Swindle. All the plugs.
You summed that up pretty well, mate.
Thanks, mate. Half the show's plugs now.
Yeah,
It's like
brilliant.
Competition, Old Spring. No, I love it. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Swindle, though, for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate.
Tom, well done. Get yourself to bed, mate.
Yeah, big time.